I know a lot of people blame the scientists and the nutritionists and the doctors when it comes to all of this new information that's been coming out over the last, decade or so regarding past culinary boogeymen. They used to say, oh, caffeine is so awful for you and red meat is so awful for you. And to be fair, there's still a lot of people that do, a lot of scientists that still claim that these things are bad. But the most recent and what I consider to be the most trustworthy scientific data points to really a reversal in so many of our so much of our understanding about what's healthy to eat and what's not healthy to eat. In many cases, it's been completely reversed. We've seen the food pyramid that came out, the new revised version, that really almost flipped it completely over. There was a time when they were saying, "Oh, sugary cereal, that's the best thing you could possibly eat. Eat it every day, eat it every meal, eat it all the time." This message brought to you by Kellogg's. you know, I mean, it was sad, and I think that it has done tremendous damage to Western society, particularly the United States of America. And I could also point to the the fact that fat was demonized while sugars were elevated as the reason why so many tens of millions of Americans are currently obese, experiencing diabetes, heart disease, cancers, all the various ailments that, quite frankly, we didn't used to have nearly as much of back, 100 years ago. And that should tell you something. Now, the disclaimers: I am not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I am not a nutritionist. If I end up repeating all those things two or three times, it's because I don't want to get sued. I'm not giving you advice on what to eat. I'm just reading the papers, reading the information, and reading this article that we have posted over at Truth Based Media. Now, it's important here to understand why we put this at Truth Based Media and not other places like Late Prepper or any of the various sites that we have. I do blame the media for this because it's not just the scientists were bad. It's not just that the research was flawed. It's that any decent journalist looking into it would have been able to follow the money, see who benefits, and come to a very quick understanding that the reason most of these flawed studies were allowed to persevere for years, for decades, is because there was an agenda behind it. Multiple agendas behind it, driving big food, big ag, big pharma, all pointing in the same direction. It benefits the powers that be when we are fat and unhealthy and paying for disgusting food and eating disgusting food instead of the good stuff. The stuff that all we have to do is look in the Bible. The Bible tells us so many of the things that we should eat. Now, I'm not saying, oh, go do a biblical diet, eat crickets like John the Baptist or Elijah or whoever. No, no, I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying that it did highlight, for example, the potency of animal fats, something that was demonized again for decades. So we have this article over there at Truth Based Media, simply because I do blame the media more so than the scientists. People will do bad things, but we have to rely not just on the experts, but those who are supposed to be monitoring the experts, namely the journalists, who can and should have come up with or come to the conclusion that these studies were flawed. The article is titled 10 Nutritional Powerhouses the quote-unquote science used to claim were bad for you. And I say used to claim, they still do in many cases. The root cause, I'll just cut to the chase on a lot of this. The root shift in mentality pertains to both carbs and the aforementioned fats. I'm not going to say that saturated fats and you can eat as much as you want, eat as much cholesterol as you want, and it's going to be great for you. Though those of us who are on the ketogenic diet know that, man, it really can be great for you. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of animal fat. With that said, I'm very much against carbs. I mean, probably more so than even your standard keto person or paleo person or whatever, carnivore. I really don't like carbs, and I in I mean, the truth is, I absolutely adore carbs. I love me some pasta. I love me some pizza. I love rice, fried rice, all sorts of rice. I could eat pastas and breads. I could eat those all day. Even though I don't even really like sweets, but I do love savory carbs. But I don't eat them anymore. They're just bad for me. and maybe you can look into it and find out that they're bad for you. So, without further ado, here are the 10 items listed in the article. And again, you can find this at truthbasedmedia.com, or you can get it, articles like this along with the podcasts sent to you directly by going to truthbasedmedia.substack.com. That's where we're putting all of our shows, not all the articles. Sometimes, just regular standard articles that we post up there. We don't send those out via newsletter. Only the podcast, which all the podcasts do have an attached article, such as this one. So number 1, coconut oil. It's medium chain triglycerides. MCT oil is, I live by it. Okay, I put it in my coffee, or actually I have coffee that already has it in there. It's amazing. It acts as an antimicrobial and quick energy source, boosting metabolism and immunity without the feared heart risks from saturated fats. Coconut oil is the best way to get it, or I guess the cleanest. I don't know, but it's the best. It's one of the cleanest ways to get MCT oil. And it is one of the things that makes it so beautiful from a keto perspective is that it doesn't have to be converted. It goes straight from, you eat it, you digest it, and it goes straight into ketones. It doesn't have to be stored away in the liver and places like that. Number 2, egg yolks. Yummy. I could eat eggs every day. I think I do eat eggs pretty much every day. At least one egg, even if it's a soft-boiled egg marinated or put in my soup. I love eggs. And for the longest time, it's like, oh, you should only eat egg whites. You shouldn't eat the yolk. The yolk that's the good stuff, man. Not just the best tasting, but also that's where so many of the super important nutrients that you need can be found. And if you think about it just for a second, of course that makes sense, right? I mean, that's basically the food for the chick, right? Well, the chick, if you have an egg with a chick. But I don't recommend eating eggs with the chicks. Preferably eat eggs without the chicks. Eggs are packed with highly absorbable choline for brain function and true vitamin A. Dietary cholesterol has little effect on blood levels compared to excess sugars. So the cholesterol was the big boogeyman that they had claimed for the longest time, and that's why they're saying, oh, if you eat too many eggs, you'll have a heart attack, right? That has been, so far, has been proven incorrect, at least based upon the studies that I have read. I know there's still studies out there that say cholesterol bad, eggs bad. Do your own research. That's the best advice I can ever give anybody as it pertains to this kind of stuff. Number 3, grass-fed beef. It offers superior bioavailable iron, zinc, and creatine for energy and muscle support. Plus, it tastes so good. Man, I could just gobble down a ribeye every single day if it wasn't so darn expensive. There are no proven direct connections to heart disease, unlike with processed meats, which, I'm a fan of bologna, I really am, but I limit it because you just shouldn't. You shouldn't eat processed foods, ultra processed foods, processed meats. Those do have connections to heart disease in ways that grass-fed beef do not. Speaking of beef, or just meat in general, organ meats. Now, this is something that I fall into the extraordinarily blessed category because I love liver. I love gizzards. I love hearts. I love all of the various organ meats that you can eat. I don't know if I could eat liver every day. That's a little bit overkill, but I could probably eat liver. And I shouldn't say probably. I do eat liver 2 or 3 times a week. Beef liver, chicken liver, those are the two that I focus on the most. We're blessed to have a breakfast joint out here that has relatively inexpensive chicken livers. They serve chicken livers, eggs, and potatoes, which of course I don't eat the potatoes, but chicken livers and eggs as a breakfast, heavenly. Heavenly. But I prefer, if I had my choice, I prefer beef liver myself. They're basically, according to the article, they're nature's true multivitamin, loaded with real vitamin A, complete B vitamins, and copper to rebuild energy, immunity, and mineral reserves. Awesome. Great stuff there. That's halfway through, right? That's number 5. Yes, it is. While we are on the topic of food, I do strongly recommend taking advantage of my good friends. Oh, take advantage of them. That's an awful way to put it, but it's true. Take advantage of my good, fantastic friends over at Heaven's Harvest. You can get to them by going to jdrucker.com/food, jdrucker.com/food. Long-term storage food that is, they use heirloom seeds, and they even sell heirloom seeds that you can use. It's all American. They're out of Georgia, and they grow all of their stuff there, right? You'd be shocked at how some of these survival food companies, they sell these freeze dried buckets of food, right, or these bags with freeze dried food in them. A good chunk. I'm not going to say all of them, even though so far I haven't found really any that don't, but a good chunk of them get their food overseas. They import the food. Why? It's cheaper. And the thought process there is that survival food, freeze-dried fruit food, doesn't have to taste good. It doesn't have to be nutritious. You just got to care about the calories. So get the cheapest possible. I disagree wholeheartedly. Okay, if you're gonna make it through the apocalypse, you need to make sure that you're not going hungry, right? Your family's not sitting there dreading a meal. It should be something they adore. And the people over at Heaven's Harvest do a fantastic job of putting out high quality, very nutritious, and extraordinarily tasty survival food. So check them out, jdrucker.com/food. All right, number 6, sardines. Another thing that I could eat every day if I had to. I love sardines. Don't get me wrong. The only reason I say if I had to, it's because they do get expensive. I mean, one little can of sardines out here in California, the good stuff. I'm not saying whatever cans of crappy tuna. I'm saying not tuna, sardines. Get the good stuff. Okay, splurge a bit, and that can be $3, $4, $5 a can, but it is worth it. They are packed. They're an affordable omega-3 and vitamin D powerhouse. They also have calcium from the edible bones. And I do recommend making sure there's skin, bones, olive oil, the works. And if you prefer some kind of hot sauce, if that makes it more palatable for you, that's fine. I don't recommend the one in water unless you just can't stand the oil or the hot sauce. Take advantage, get the fats. Okay, these are protein powerhouses, and they do have fats, but you really want more fat to go with all of that protein that you're eating with them. And yes, get them with the bones, get them with the skin, get them regular. Awesome. Don't have anybody take away all that beautiful nutrition for any reason. Sardines are ideal for the brain, for bones, and for anti-inflammatory benefits. Now, this is a controversial one. I do agree, but I am also a bit hesitant sometimes. And that is number 7, nuts. They deliver vitamin E, selenium, and magnesium for heart protection and fullness. Their advantages far outweigh old calorie counting concerns in reasonable portions. And I think that's the key, is reasonable portions. I wouldn't go get yourself stuffed on macadamia nuts, right? But they are a good supplement, have a little bit here or there. Great for the crunch. I get these. I hate to admit it. It is a common brand of macadamia nuts but the flavor, man, it's a garlic onion flavor. So good. I probably could eat a whole bag in one sitting, but I don't, because again, you don't want to overdo it. Yes, they have a good mix of protein and fat. Yes, they are, most of them. Make sure to check the labels, but most of them are low in carbs. But there is just something about them, right? It's just something. It's like you don't want to stuff yourself on nuts every day. That's kind of weird. Number 8, dark chocolate. Now, a lot of it has been written about this. I think it's finally relatively universal that the scientists, even the ones that were bought off by the food lobby, they are finally starting to acknowledge that, yeah, dark chocolate with at least 70% plus purity is good for you. It's one of the planet's richest antioxidant sources. It combats inflammation, combats DNA damage. Just don't get it with sugar. Make sure that they don't have any added sugar in there. Otherwise, you're sort of defeating the whole purpose. Number 9, my personal favorite on this list, coffee. Coffee supplies abundant antioxidants tied to lower risk of type 2 diabetes and brain diseases. Daily moderate use can be genuinely protected. But here's the thing. I'm not going to tell you what to drink. Again, do your own research. But I have seen some studies over the last year or so that say consumption beyond moderate can actually still be very good for you, and it has additional benefits, especially as it pertains to anti-aging and fighting dementia and all that good stuff. I personally drink way too much coffee every day. If you couldn't tell. Haha. Bad joke. I do drink too much coffee every day. But is it really too much? I don't know. I don't know. And then the one item on the list that I wholeheartedly disagree with, but I included on the list because, these they're the scientists, right? They're the ones that supposedly know. I wouldn't touch these ever, but again, there are reasons for it. And the answer is bananas. They are rich in potassium and fiber to help steady blood sugar and pressure. They're convenient. They're whole food carb if you are eating carbs. And keep in mind, even before I was on the ketogenic diet, I was not a fan of bananas. I think that I don't know, and I can't even pinpoint a scientific reason for it. And I do enjoy. I mean, I like the flavor of bananas. Okay, but I just don't know if I would put them on my list of superfoods, foods that are nutritionally. And the other reason that I was kind of surprised is not like people are out there saying, "Oh, don't eat bananas; they're bad for you." That wasn't the case for a long time. I guess you could say that they're saying, "Oh, it's too much sugar" or whatever. But still, I don't know if it belongs on this list. But I didn't make the list, so I'm just here reporting it to you. One way or the other, you do have to take charge of your health. I'm not saying that you don't listen to doctors, don't listen to nutritionists, but we have an unprecedented ability to gather our own information, to do our own research, to find the truth about various ways to stay fit. It's not just about food; it's about sleep. It's about exercise. It's about when not to eat. I'm a big fan of fasting, for example, and of course getting enough sunlight. Those are the four major components, right, of taking control of your health. When it comes to food, the main thing for me, and again, not giving medical advice, just giving personal preference, uh, telling you how I feel about it. I like to know where all of my food is coming from. I like to source it. I like to make sure that whenever possible, that I can actually look in the eyes of somebody who picked the food or owns the farm or the ranch where the food came from, or I call it I don't know, not even a pet peeve. I don't know what you'd call it. It just gives me more security knowing that I can look a guy in the eye and say, yeah, his farm produced these tomatoes, and now he's proudly selling them at the farmer's market because it's good food, and he's organic, he's regenerative, he's really trying to do food right. I like that a lot. And if you don't have access to that, so be it. You can still read labels. You can still go online when you're at the grocery store. You can check your phone and find out where's this food coming from, where is it sourced, how's the food brought from farm to can or bag or whatever. What is the process? And understanding that is, to me, a huge key, because you can start to identify things that perhaps you should not be eating for various reasons, mostly for, of course, health reasons. So stay frosty when it comes to your food. Don't just assume, oh, and it's funny because my wife and I, we always say this, it was our generation, it was Gen X that really ruined it. And to be fair, it was our parents that really ruined it by allowing us, feeding us crap. I mean, I remember when there was a time when, McDonald's was like, oh, this is great. We're going out to McDonald's, right? We're going to get good hearty food. It's all beef patty. It's got special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions. It's all in a sesame seed bun. So surely all that stuff sounds good and natural and awesome. It must be great for us, right? Yes, we were raised on that. We were raised on Doritos. We were raised on crap. And it wasn't until we got old and started checking the internet, reading the science, doing the studies, all that stuff, come to the conclusion that holy crap, Wait, wait, you mean my Mexamelt was bad for me? What the heck is that? I eat Mexamelts every day. What's going on here? Yeah. So it's our fault. We're the ones to blame, but we can try to fix it now. It doesn't matter. You can blame whoever you want. You can blame the scientists, the journalists, Gen X, boomers, whoever. But right now, starting today, you don't have to blame anybody but yourself because you have the knowledge, you have the information. Now go out and use that knowledge.
Okay, let's run.
Oh, I really, really, really hope that the Trump administration is going to fully take advantage of this opportunity with ICE and airports and the TSA. We know that starting Monday, the ICE agents are going to be sent to various airports across the country. We don't know which ones yet. They don't know which ones yet, but they will be going there to assist TSA agents in their duties, to help them to focus on screening while ICE agents do the less trained components, such as guarding exits and stuff like that. This should help to mitigate the long lines that have been happening in airports across the nation, thanks to Democrats and their partial government shutdown of DHS in an effort to go after ICE. It's pretty ironic, of course, that it will be ICE that helps to stop or to help solve the problem that Democrats created in their attempts to get ICE. Poetic justice, if you ask me. But we know that this should help a bit. Okay, they're planning on going in there and doing the duties that don't require specialized training that TSA agents normally require. So they're not going to be sitting there manning X-ray machines or anything like that. But they'll be freeing up TSA agents to go do that themselves. In the meantime, ICE agents will be positioned in the appropriate places, trying to fill the gaps so that the TSA agents who are currently not being paid, well, hopefully they'll be able to do the job that makes the lines shorter, that makes traveling in America easier. But like I said, this is an opportunity. We have an article over at conservativeplaybook.com titled Sending ICE to Airports is a Huge Opportunity to Make ICE Look Good. I've said on multiple shows recently that ICE has a PR problem, an optics problem. It's not real. I mean, it's not based upon reality. It's based upon the drumbeat of negative narratives that have been pushed out about ICE really throughout all of last year, but it culminated or really hit its peak when a pair of American citizens, Alex Preddy and Renee Good, were killed uh, while they were protesting ICE, while they were trying to disrupt ICE operations. They ended up getting themselves killed, and well, the optics for ICE has been going downhill ever since. Most Americans, even those of us who fully support deportations, there's still a whole lot of people who view ICE negatively. And this is a chance, okay? This really is an opportunity for them to humanize ICE agents, to make it to where they are being helpful. Obviously, if they can make the line shorter, that's going to be very helpful. People are going to appreciate that. But it also, again, puts a human face to it. A lot of these people that are against ICE have never actually come face to face with an ICE agent. They've seen the videos through legacy media or on social media. They've heard the stories. They get constantly bombarded with anti-ICE rhetoric. And so they might have a negative feeling that's not based upon anything other than the the massive amounts of negativity directed towards ICE. They might be all in favor of deportations. I've heard a phrase repeated often, even by some Republicans, saying, we want the deportations, but we want ICE to do it the right way, as if they're somehow doing it the wrong way. They're doing it the way that they're supposed to be doing it. They have been from the beginning. That's not to say they've done everything perfectly in each individual instance. There are always going to be hiccups when you're dealing with criminals and trying to capture criminals. Okay, it's not going to be flawless, especially when we're considering the sheer size of the problem, that being in the tens of millions of illegal aliens here in the United States of America. So yeah, they haven't been perfect, but they can't be perfect. With that said, the vast majority of the time they do it by the books. They do it perfectly. They do it the way that they're supposed to do it. So to say, well, we don't like the way they're doing it, that's number one, it's very ignorant. It's always coming from people who have no idea, who couldn't comprehend the idea of even trying to capture an illegal alien and set them up for deportation, right? They're like, oh yeah, you just walk in and say, hey, you're an illegal alien, here, come with us. That's not how it usually goes down. That's not how it ever really goes down. There's always some sort of complication, and ICE agents are excellent at dealing with those. So no, we don't need them to do it differently. But again, there's all this negativity towards them. So now we can put a smiling face, a helpful face, one that is designed to say, hey, we're here because we should be out there catching the bad guys, but instead we're here helping to shorten your lines because President Trump thinks it's important, Tom Homan thinks it's important, Republicans across the White House and Capitol Hill all think it's important, and so we're here because we know that you need us. We want to get this over and done with. We want to get the government opened back up. We want to get back to doing our job, which is to go and find and deport illegal aliens. But in the meantime, we do have to do something because the Democrats aren't budging. For those who don't know, Democrats are making demands, including the several demands that are untenable. A couple of them are not that bad, but one in particular is a non-starter, and they keep pushing for it. They want judicial warrants to be used by ICE agents when making arrests against illegal aliens, and that would make the process 1,000 times more difficult than it is today, utilizing the properly legal administrative warrants to go after people who have already been given their final order of deportation. Why do we need judicial warrants when their cases have already been adjudicated? They are already set to be deported. So we have to go prove again that they still need to be deported, that they, since the last time that they were set for given their final deportation order, since then they've been able to somehow miraculously get their U.S. citizenship. It's impossible to do it that way, but that's pretty much what the Democrats are demanding. Of course, they know that it won't work, and that's the point. They want to eliminate deportations. They want as many criminal, violent, illegal aliens walking the streets of the United States of America as possible. It's part of their whole big, huge master plan. I'm going to play for you a little clip of Tom Homan Sunday morning explaining what ICE is going to be doing. And really, you'll notice here, I'm very impressed that the way that he handled it, he didn't come across as, hey, look, we've already got this figured out. He plainly said, look, this is a work in progress, sort of thrown onto us. So we're going to get it figured out, but we're not going to be having the ICE agents man the X-ray machines or anything like that. They don't need to. And I thought he handled it very well. I'll play that in a second. Let's have a very, very short break, and then we'll be right back with Tom Homan.
The current food crisis is only going to get worse. Now is the time to secure long-term food you can store at home so you'll never stand in the government's bread lines. Visit jdrucker.com/food. That's jdrucker.com/food.
Put together a plan today and we'll execute tomorrow.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions here. First of all, are ICE agents even remotely trained to handle security at airports?
ICE agents receive a high level of training. And, the ICE agents are assigned at many airports across the country already. They do a lot of criminal investigation on smuggling at airports. But, there's got TSA agents covering exits, people that enter through the exits. Certainly a highly trained ICE law enforcement officer can cover an exit, makes people don't go through those exits, entering the airport through the exits, and that stuff like that relieves that TSA officer to go to screening and to reduce those lines. So wherever we can provide extra security. I don't see an ICE agent looking at an x-ray machine because they're not trained in that. There are certain parts of security that TSA is doing that we can move them off those jobs and put them in the specialized jobs, help move those lines.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So what you're saying is when you move ICE into airports, they are going to be just around the exits and the exteriors. They're not going to be helping people get through the lines and screening people's bags.
Those discussions are going on now. I'm not expert at TSA, so that's why I'm talking to the TSA administrator and the ICE director, find out where we can fit in. We'll have a plan by the end of today where we're sending, what airports we're starting with and where we're sending them, but that's a discussion we're having right now. I mean, I ended the discussion to do the show, and I'll be back having those discussions when I finish. So it's a work in progress, but we will be at the airports tomorrow.
So making ICE visible, making them helpful, putting them out there, smiling. I'm not saying they have to go, put on clown outfits and juggle. I'm saying they just need to be there and just be normal, just be themselves, be human beings, because this is going to be very different from their normal job, which is to bust down doors when necessary, chase after people when necessary, throw handcuffs on them and put them in the car and take them to a holding cell as they await deportation. That's a challenge. What they're going to be asked to do for however long it takes to get the Democrats to either come to their senses or for John Thune to come to his senses and just eliminate the filibuster altogether, which is what I've been pushing for a while now. Something has to give. In the meantime, they can use this as a way to humanize ICE. And at the end of the day, if they can do this the right way, if the Trump administration, and I'm assuming they are, the only reason I put a question mark on it at all is because we haven't heard this. But let's assume that they recognize this. Let's assume they know that they're telling their agents, hey, this is basically, it's like a paid day off. You got to go stand here, keep people that are heading from this direction, heading in that direction, tell them they can't go through that direction. That's it. You're guarding exits, you're guarding areas that have to be guarded by human beings, but that don't necessarily need to be guarded by somebody who's trained to run x-ray machines or to move people along in the line. There's other developments too, by the way. This isn't the only one. We have heard that Elon Musk has discussed paying for the TSA agents, paying their salaries temporarily until this gets fixed. That would be a tremendous help. I'm not sure what the logistics are of that, how that even works. He's not a member of the government. He can't just go and get a list of all of their bank accounts or whatever. I'm not sure how he can do it, but if he can, God bless him for that, because we do need these agents to be taken care of. Okay, they've gone a long time. We're over a month into this shutdown. They've gone at least 2 checks that they haven't received. That can be debilitating for any family, really. In America today, any middle-class family that relies on paychecks, not getting them once can really suck. Not getting them twice can be just abysmal. And so they're forced to either go find other jobs, second jobs, or to quit TSA altogether and find a job that will pay them. They know they're going to get their paychecks eventually. We know that. That's how government shutdowns work. But in the meantime, how do they pay their bills? So Elon Musk stepping up is a very good thing. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is going to make a noticeable dent in the wait times. I hope it does. I pray that it does. I hope that they are able to make a positive impact, not just for the sake of travelers in TSA, but also for themselves. I hope that they can be viewed in a mildly heroic, from a mildly heroic perspective, going in there and fixing things that need to be fixed. And hopefully the Americans will appreciate that. One thing is certain, Democrats are already starting to freak out about this. And I think I can speak for a majority of Americans when I say I don't care what Democrats think about this.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
It feels lately that pretty much every couple of weeks we hear a new claim about extraterrestrials, extra dimensional creatures, UFOs, UAPs, UA whatevers, and it's coming from the government. This is a great departure, of course, from what we were experiencing for decades, really ever since Roswell, where everything seemed to be a cover up. Now, all of a sudden, the last 3 or 4 years, government has been talking, oh my gosh, yeah, the extraterrestrials, ships, all of that stuff. I just listened to a segment of a UFO podcast talking to a gentleman, a movie director, who claims that his friend, somebody that a senior of his when he was a young man just out of high school, he was talking to him, and this man worked for the Reagan administration, and he had to go through certain training to get a particular job that required, one of those briefcases with handcuffs on it, and he relayed that he would go into his briefing and learn his stuff, and every day he would have to cry himself to sleep. Now, the story itself sounds pretty compelling, especially when we learn that the thing that was making him cry himself to sleep was that aliens are real and they're among us, and it's, yada, yada, yada. The world isn't the way that he had thought it was before. Again, fantastic story, makes for great podcasting, does definitely align with the perspective that many of us, I'm sure many of you, maybe not all of you, but many of you feel the same way that I do, that this whole alien, extraterrestrial, extra dimensional, whatever concept is a great deception. They're planning on unveiling it, and they're going to use it for whatever purposes. Everybody has their own theory as to what it is. Oh, it's going to be explain away the rapture, or it's going to get us to stop believing in our Bible, or to, whatever. We hear about this throughout the Bible. We hear about prophecies, especially in the end times, when people start to fall away based upon false information. And this sure seems to fit that bill pretty nicely. The White House recently purchased aliens.gov, and that got everybody all excited. Oh my gosh, it's happening. It's really, really happening. We have people like Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who I do believe her perspective, or I believe that she's telling the truth. I think that she too, and many authorities, are being fed lies. Okay, and in some cases they're fed, I shouldn't say lies, they're fed half truths. They're shown, for example, videos of UFOs, and I'm not trying to convince anybody that UFOs aren't real or that they don't exist. I myself, with my wife, have seen what we believe was very likely some version of UFOs over Phoenix, not the famous Phoenix ones. We weren't there for that, but we we were traveling, and late at night we saw something crazy. We pulled the car over and we were watching. This is unfortunately before the time of good cameras on smartphones. Well, this is before the time of smartphones, period. And so we couldn't get very good video of it. Just looked like lights, but the lights were moving strangely. And the thing that sort of sealed the deal for me that this was something really weird, we were watching it for quite a while, and then all of a sudden these lights darted off. They were directly in front of us for a long time, and then all of a sudden they zoomed away real fast. It was definitely nothing that our understanding of modern technology could accomplish. And then about 3 or 4 seconds later, we hear the swoosh of what was almost certainly military aircraft coming from the opposite direction and seemingly chasing after them. It was a very startling incident. And so, even if that wasn't the case, that's a personal experience. Even without that, I would still believe that the some of the videos out there, some of the testimony, maybe most, who knows? I don't know what the percentage is, but a good chunk of what's being talked about as UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrials, extra whatever, that they do physically and truly exist. I just don't think we understand the nature of them very well at all. We have theories. My theory is that they are demonic in nature. Others say that they're just advanced technology, maybe the American, maybe Chinese, maybe Russian, maybe somebody else. Who knows? But either way, it all feels as if it is pointing to the coming great deception of disclosure. Later this year, we actually have a movie called Disclosure Day, part of what I believe to be the mass cultural gaslighting, indoctrination, brainwashing, hypnosis. I don't know. It does feel very conspicuous that it's all happening right around the same time. Government's talking about it, Hollywood's talking about it, podcasters are talking about it, the news is talking about it. You see news reports. I get to watch a lot of news reports as part of my daily job, and as such, I do see that they're trickling in nonstop. Sometimes it's the local news. A lot of times it'll be Fox News or CNN, but it's happening. We get to see it. And again, I cannot stress enough that as a Bible believing Christian, it's not possible to believe in them, at least not the narrative that is being formed around them. These aren't aliens. These aren't extra dimensional creatures, unless you consider those from the unseen realm, those beyond the veil, the demonic fallen angels, whatever they are. I don't know what they are, but something advanced above and beyond us, technologically, spiritually. Maybe I don't know their quote unquote powers or anything like that. I just know that this doesn't align with the Bible. But here's the other aspect of it. I think it's important to understand this. Even without my biblical understanding, this all still feels like a great deception. Even if I wasn't a Bible believing Christian, I would be questioning the entire narrative, because as we watch, again, starting with approximately right around Roswell all the way through until today, we've witnessed the evolution of this concept, and feels like it's a long con. It feels like, and obviously a very long con in this case. We're talking, 80 years? So that does feel like, it feels like something that, number one, we can't properly explain yet. Number two, it feels too convenient. Even in the way that the information spread has come over the years, over the decades. If we were wanting, if I was part of some conspiracy, some deep state, some military industrial complex or whatever, and the intention was to establish a conspiratorial fear, whatever venue. I don't even know what the right word is, but a strategy to be able to, in the long term, deceive the people and make us compliant, concerned, scared. This would be the long game. This would be the way that it would happen. You'd start off by denying it. You'd continue to deny it. You'd put out some good information, some bad information. You'd get your people, whether they were the early investigative journalists into UFOs, all the way through to today's podcasters. You'd give them information. I'm not suggesting they're all in on the con. I think that a lot of times people want to believe in whatever their worldview demands that they believe, and as such, they are very easy to con, to utilize as, I don't want to say useful idiots, because a lot of these people aren't idiots at all. They're extraordinarily intelligent people that have put a lot of time and effort into researching the subject and have come to a conclusion that, while potentially legitimate from at least their perspective, is still a false conclusion. We posted an article over at discern.tv that highlights this, and I'm going to play. Granted, I'll acknowledge up front, this is an AI recording of it, but it's a good one. I think it does I use a program that does very, very good. We can always tell when AI is speaking, and you'll be able to tell in this case too. But at the very least, it does seem to portray itself appropriately and not get in the way of the message. I am not a great reader. This is one of the reasons why I would never make a news anchor reading a teleprompter, because that's just not my thing. I I don't read out loud very well. I read just fine. I don't have any trouble reading. I'm not Gavin Newsom, but I prefer to use, when reading, in this case, an article, a script regarding this topic, I prefer to utilize AI just to keep it clean so that you don't have to hear my ums and stutters and anything like that. You already get enough of that when I'm just speaking normally on this show. So I'm going to play that, and then on the other side, I will give my final thoughts on the matter. In an era when governments openly investigate unidentified anomalous phenomena and public fascination with alien life reaches new heights, Bible-believing Christians confront a fundamental question that strikes at the heart of our faith. The Word of God does not merely remain silent on extraterrestrial beings, it actively precludes their existence. From the very first verse of Scripture to the promises of redemption, the biblical narrative establishes Earth and humanity as the singular focus of God's creative and redemptive work. Any belief in intelligent life beyond our planet requires setting aside the plain teaching of the Bible. The UFO and UAP phenomenon is undeniably real. Multiple congressional hearings, Pentagon reports, and the ongoing work of the Department of War's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office confirm thousands of documented cases, many involving military personnel and remaining unexplained after rigorous analysis. Recent releases include declassified videos from 2025 and 2026, workshops on narrative data collection, and pledges from the current administration for greater transparency. Yet every official assessment to date has found no verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial craft or technology. What persists are objects and encounters that defy conventional explanation, but fit perfectly within another framework, one the Bible has warned about for millennia. Genesis opens with a declaration that leaves no ambiguity. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The subsequent days of creation detail a world formed for habitation, with mankind given dominion over it. Isaiah reinforces this singular purpose. For thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made it. He hath established it, he created it not in vain, he formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Isaiah 45-18. The heavens belong to the Lord, but earth was given to the children of men. Psalm 115:16. Nowhere does Scripture describe other inhabited worlds or beings, created in God's image elsewhere. To insert extraterrestrials into this account is to rewrite the text itself. Humanity's unique standing becomes even clearer when considering the fall and redemption. Sin entered the world through one man, Adam, Romans 5:12. And death passed upon all men. Jesus Christ took on human flesh, not the form of any other creature, to redeem that fallen race. The writer of Hebrews notes that Christ took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Hebrews 2:16. If intelligent extraterrestrials existed and had fallen into sin, the entire plan of salvation would require expansion beyond the cross. Scripture offers no such provision. The gospel is for Earth's inhabitants alone. This is where the true nature of the UFO phenomenon emerges. What millions interpret as visitors from distant stars or extra-dimensional travelers align far more closely with the spiritual realm Scripture describes. Ephesians 6:12 warns, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." These entities operate from the unseen realm just beyond the veil that separates our physical reality from the spiritual. They are not aliens from other planets, but fallen beings from the other side, demons capable of manifesting in ways that mimic advanced technology or biological visitors. The Bible repeatedly cautions that deception will increase in the last days through signs and lying wonders. 2 Corinthians 11:14 states plainly, And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. If the prince of darkness can appear as an angel, his servants can certainly stage aerial spectacles, craft illusions of metallic ships, or even impersonate benevolent extraterrestrials offering false enlightenment. Historical accounts of celestial visitations throughout church history often carried the same markers now attributed to modern UFOs: fear, confusion, and a subtle undermining of biblical authority. Some sightings undoubtedly stem from human innovation as well. Classified defense programs have long tested advanced aircraft and drones that once appeared otherworldly. The combination of genuine spiritual manifestations and man-made technology creates a perfect storm of confusion, exactly the environment in which spiritual deception thrives. Christians who rush to embrace an extraterrestrial narrative risk aligning themselves with the very forces Scripture identifies as adversarial. Discernment requires returning to the foundational truth that God's Word is sufficient. The same Creator who hung the stars in place and formed man from the dust has revealed everything necessary for life and godliness. Speculation about life on other planets may sound sophisticated in popular media or scientific circles, but it directly contradicts the biblical cosmology that places Earth at the center of God's redemptive story. When pilots report objects performing impossible maneuvers or witnesses describe encounters that feel otherworldly, the proper response is not wonder at alien intelligence, but vigilance against spiritual principalities. The coming months will likely bring more disclosures, more videos, and more pressure to reinterpret Scripture in light of new evidence. Bible-believing Christians must refuse that pressure. The veil between the physical and spiritual is thinning in these times, and what emerges from the other side will not arrive in peace, but in deception. Our mandate remains unchanged. Test every spirit, hold fast to the Word, and proclaim the gospel that saves humanity alone. Standing firm on these truths does not diminish the majesty of the cosmos. It exalts the God who created it for His glory and our good. The heavens declare His handiwork, not the existence of other civilizations. In a world chasing shadows in the sky, the Christian's eyes remain fixed on the author and finisher of our faith, the one who needs no extraterrestrial companions to complete his eternal plan.
I didn't realize until hearing it myself for the second time. I heard it the first time, but I didn't realize until hearing it the second time just now that it does come across as definitive and authoritative when really this is just speculation. Do I believe that these are demonic in nature? You betcha. Am I 100% certain? No, I can't be. Just as nobody can be 100% certain that they're aliens or that they're extra dimensional creatures or that they're figments of our imagination or that there's some advanced DARPA technology. All of these ideas are speculation. Now, I would argue that a predominance of evidence points to what I truly believe, which is that this is part of the great deception that's mentioned in the Bible multiple times in various forms. I think that this is it. I think that this matches what we are told to expect. And I think it's going to be so compelling, folks. The reason that, and this is the second time I've done this particular topic just in the last month, it's because it is important. And yes, I was inspired, of course, by that very compelling and yet demonstrably false claim that a Reagan official cried himself to sleep every day while he was learning about how aliens were actually walking among us. Those types of tidbits of information can be enough to sway people to open up their minds to false ideas. And this is why, again, I'm going to be talking about this topic more and more, maybe not every month, but I'm not going to let it slide because this is too important. People will be fooled. People are currently being fooled. And we're not talking about just your average Joe. We're talking about Bible-believing Christians whose doctrine is otherwise sound, and yet the evidence or the spirit or something is making them think, you know what? Let me try to figure out how to fit
aliens or extra dimensional creatures into my understanding of the Bible. And that's where it gets into a very dangerous path. Because keep in mind, the deception isn't just for the people. The your average human is going to be easy to deceive. All you need is the appropriate technology that goes beyond what we believe is within our capabilities today. That's easy. DARPA has been doing that for decades, and they're not the only ones. Okay, the technology that our whether you want to call it our government, because I don't think it's a direct representation of our government. In many cases, I think it is more in the shadows and the deep state version of our government, if you will. And then there are other governments and even non-government organizations. Okay, you can look at, I mean, the Vatican has been talking for years about some variation or hinting at variations of disclosure. They claim that they know things that will change the world. We've also heard this coming from other non-religious, non-government groups, in the scientific arena that say that they have proof or evidence that they're trying to reconcile and collect appropriately before disclosing it to the people. Disclosure is coming, and it's going to be false. This is why I continuously talk about this subject. That's why I ask and beg of you to think through it, to pray through it, and to appreciate the very basic biblical tenet that God created the heavens and the earth, that God created us, and in no form of the Bible, no portion of the Bible does it talk about God creating anything or any living creatures outside of the heavenly, the creation of the angels. Of course, that's discussed, and the creation of life here on earth. That's it. If there were other creations, other aspects of creation that would mingle with us or whatever, then the Bible would have told us about that. Now, some would argue that maybe the Bible doesn't talk about it because it's just too distant. Maybe we're not supposed to know about them. Maybe they went above and beyond. There's all sorts of theories. And it all traces back to the idea that because the universe is so vast and so old, allegedly, that there must be life somewhere. When the easiest way to deceive people away from biblical understanding is to use numbers that go beyond our ability to properly understand them, to grasp them. Once you get beyond that point of basically, oh, that's basically an eternity, then anything is possible. This is why the theory of evolution persists, despite countless pieces of evidence highlighting the impossibility of evolution. It doesn't fit. It's impossible. But you can overcome that impossibility by saying, well, this has been in development for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And when we're talking about the universe, of course, they say billions of years. Now, all of a sudden, anything seems possible, even if it's still not, because our brains just don't grasp such large concepts we don't have a point of reference. For us, a year can be a long time. 20 years can be a very long time. 80 years can be a lifetime. So what could happen in 80,000 years or 80 million years? Based upon our understanding, our very limited and in most cases wrong understanding about the passage of time, anything is possible. And that's, again, that extends out to with the universe having billions, trillions, quadrillions of stars, and at least thousands, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of galaxies. The thought there of certainly one of them had the elements, the circumstances similar to what we have here on Earth that have allowed for life. It's a way to deceive against the creation, deceive against the teachings of the Bible, and offer plausible deniability for the falsehoods of these manufactured types of quote unquote science. They're not science, to be clear. There's nothing observable that says, okay, well, if there are this many stars, this many years, this many whatever, that there must be life. That's not provable until it's seen firsthand. And therein lies the great deception. I feel that at some point in the very near future, we are going to see firsthand. We are going to see those lying spirits. We are going to see signs and wonders, false wonders, of course, but still compelling enough to confuse and deceive the masses. So that's why I continue to highlight this, because you're going to see some amazing, incredible, and potentially terrifying stuff in the near future. I truly believe that's the case. And when it does, pray through it. Remember these words that you're hearing right now, that just as there's endless possibilities when you have an extended amount of time and you have an extended amount of space, so too are there endless possibilities when you let go of the basic tenets of the Bible. And I beg and pray that you don't do that. The Bible is right. God created us. He did not create anyone else other than what is mentioned in the Bible. And that's just the truth. I don't want to dirty that up by saying much more, because the plain truth itself that you can read every day and that you should be reading every day tells us that aliens or extra-dimensional creatures that are not defined as demonic or some variation thereof, well, they can't be real.
It will shock you how much it never happened.